Nancy Drew, worst of Blackmoor Manor. This is a funny story. I hope you find it funny. I'm the guy who wrote it. I'm Arglefumph. Chapter 10. Runes. Nancy vaguely recalled seeing runes on the study guide in Jane's room, so she knocked on the door there. "We're in lessons right now," Ethel called. "I need to borrow Jane's book on runes. You can get it when the lessons are over." "You have time to do freaky rituals at 3:15 in the morning, but you don't have time to loan me a book?" Nancy said in her sassiest voice. There was a moment of tense silence after this. Then the door opened slightly. Nancy smirked in victory. Ethel threw the book directly at Nancy's head, then slammed the door in her face. Nancy fell over when the book smashed into her eyeball. "Ow!" Nancy said. "Thanks for the book, but be more gentle next time." Nancy picked up the book and flipped to the section on letters. She took it to the hidden gargoyle passageway and spelled out the name Eleanor. This caused the doorway to open on the wall opposite of Linda's room. "There's a hidden passageway in the hidden passageway?" Nancy wondered. She wandered through the doorway and soon found herself falling down several flights of stairs. "Ow! Ow! Ow!" Nancy cried. Figuring she was underneath the house now, she got off of the ground and explored. The hallway had smooth blank walls, probably because no one ever visited this part of the manor. Nancy marveled at how clean and dust-free the ancient passageways were when she came to a dead end. In the corner of the wall was a metal plate with a triangle on the cover. She opened the cover to see a series of 6 triangles. She fiddled around with them until they were all facing upwards, like the triangle on the cover. When she was done, nothing happened. "This is boring," she said. She turned around and climbed the stairs, only falling twice along the way. Soon she was back inside the well-lit hallways of Blackmoor Manor. Nancy stood up straight. She was finally ready to... What was she supposed to do again? Nancy opened up her task list and started checking off the things she had already done. She stopped when she saw the first item on the list. "Check in with Mrs. Drake once I unpack." "Oh, geez, I was supposed to meet with Mrs. Drake when I first arrived," Nancy said. She stuffed her notebook into her purse and ran down to the bottom floor of Blackmoor Manor. She tried the wrong door before finding the door to the conservatory. Nancy was impressed by the change of scenery. The conservatory was humid and full of plants. It was well lit, and as Nancy walked down the stairs, she saw an admirable concrete pond with a fancy frog tile decoration above it. On the far end of the room, away from the stairs, Mrs. Drake was watering plants. "Hey, Mrs. Drake," Nancy said. "All settled in? Good. I know how much you teenagers love your televisions and loud stereos, so I must insist that you act civilly and quietly while you are visiting Linda. Jane is having her lessons, and she mustn't be disturbed," Mrs. Drake lectured. "Got it. Anything else I should know?" "The kitchen is being remodeled, so if you wish to eat something, you will have to order it from the local pub. The phone line has been set up in your room. Feel free to order whatever you'd like." "Ooh, great! I haven't eaten anything in over 2 days," Nancy said. Mrs. Drake looked at her strangely. She's probably looking strangely because there's a typo here. Oh my gosh. I put down the local pub like I wasn't sure which word to use there. Chapter 11, Talking to Mrs. Drake. Nancy Drew was talking to Mrs. Drake, as the title says. Maybe I need to put a period after her name in the title as well. "So, what do you think is wrong with Linda?" "I don't know, and the doctors don't know. Nobody seems to know anything," Mrs. Drake said with a hint of frustration in her voice. "All I know is that Linda is unwell, and I am to look after the manor in her stead." Actually, I was trying to ask if... This is kind of a weird question. Has she always had super hairy arms? "No, of course not," Mrs. Drake said. "Why? Is there a problem with her arms? Did you see her behind the curtain?" "I only saw her hand, and it was covered with hair, like a werewolf." Mrs. Drake clicked with her mouth. Please don't tell me you are falling for that ridiculous old story about the Blackmoor beast. I know you thought you saw something when you arrived, but I can assure you that Linda is not a lycanthrope. Nancy had no response because she had no idea what lycanthropy was. Oh, hey, that reminds me of a joke. What do you call a werewolf YouTuber? Like and subscribe! Instead of speaking, Nancy felt her upper lip, in order to confirm that the manor did not cause its residents to start growing hair spontaneously. Okay, I don't have a mustache, Nancy said. That means Linda's not a werewolf. Excuse me? Mrs. Drake asked. You're excused, Nancy said, but I have a question about Loulou the parrot. Do you know her magic word? Magic word? Oh, yes, Mrs. Drake said. You see, my brother and father used to play a word game with Loulou. I never understood how it was played, but sometimes she'd grow sullen and refuse to play the game anymore until they told her that... Let's see, what was it again? It's on the tip of... Oh man, another typo. It's on the tip of my tongue. They'd have to tell her that Loulou is a very, very clever and beautiful bird. Great, thanks, Nancy said. There's one more thing I want to talk about, though. Ethel and Jane are dressing up in weird costumes and doing chant rituals at 3:15 in the morning in order to pour oil in the hole in the floor. You know about this, right? Mrs. Drake threw Nancy out of the conservatory 20 seconds later. Chapter 12. Loulou's Magic Word. I guess Mrs. Drake is busy, Nancy said, brushing herself off as she got off the ground. She went upstairs and stopped by Loulou's cage. Hey, Double Lou! I know the magic word. You do? Loulou is a very, very clever and beautiful bird. Loulou made loud, happy sounds. Clever and beautiful! Too true! Too true! Loulou is clever and beautiful! So, my word is barber, Nancy said. Leech! Leech, 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 leech! Are you saying leech is the next word in the sequence? You got it, Toots! Nancy went to the hidden passageway in the East Hall. At the parrot plaque, which read barber, she spun the dials, so it read leech. The plaque accepted this as correct, and the door opened. More passageways, Nancy muttered. She walked down this one, and at the end was a familiar-looking triangle puzzle. This time, the box with triangles was on the left side of the wall. Nancy opened it, and spun the triangles so they were all facing upwards. The wall spun to the side, revealing a large hidden room that conveniently connected both hidden passageways Nancy had found. The room had a door, a side passageway, and a tiny box in the wall. Nancy opened the box to find a glowing rock. Hey, I can use this as a flashlight, Nancy said. Hopefully it's not radioactive. Nancy stepped through the doorway and she found herself in a small room, about the size of an elevator. She opened the door at the other end of the room and went through. When the door closed behind her, she heard the room moving. Huh? Nancy asked. On a metallic fountain in front of her, Nancy could see a device. She picked it up to see that it had a map. Solve the maze of the rotating rooms, was carved on the top of the map. Uh-oh, Nancy said. Chapter 13, 8 hours later. 8 hours later, Nancy made it through the maze. Chapter 14, the Penvelin Family Forge. At the other end of the maze was a locked door. A chemistry puzzle was built into the door, and at the top was a symbol of a snake eating its own tail. Nancy said. A snake eating its tail. I should find out what this means before solving the puzzle. Maybe Nigel knows about it? Nancy paused for a moment, then reconsidered. Oh, no way am I going back through that maze again just to talk to Nigel, she decided. She pulled out her phone and did an internet search, which revealed that the symbols on the door all dealt with alchemy. She reconstructed the formulas according to the website, and the door opened to reveal the hidden Penvelin Forge. Nancy knew this was the name of the room, because right next to the door was a small table with a homemade book entitled The Hidden Penvelin Forge and You, by Alan Penvelin. Intrigued, Nancy picked it up and began reading. Hello, Jane. It's me, your Grandpa Alan. This is the big secret I was talking about. This room contains the treasure that our family's founder, Ranulph the Red, discovered oh so long ago. But before you can access it, there are a number of puzzles you have to solve first. Turn the page to learn more. If, for some reason, you are not a member of the Penvillin family, please turn to page 87. Nancy turned to page 87. Interloper! How dare you trespass on the Penvillin family secrets? I am going to put the curse of Blackmoor Manor on you now. Soon you will become a werewolf. The only way to avoid this fate is to leave immediately and never tell anyone about it. If you believe in the curse of Blackmoor Manor, turn to the last page of the book. If not, turn to page 88. Nancy turned to the last page of the book. The end. Ugh, that's a bad ending, Nancy said. She went back a step and went to page 88. Okay, fine, you win. There's no such thing as the curse of Blackmoor Manor. Our ancestor Eleanor was not a witch. She was actually an alchemist. In fact, the alchemy puzzle on the door to this room was constructed by Eleanor centuries ago. People just made the wrong assumptions when she was secretly bringing in strange ingredients from all over the continent. The room you're standing in is the hidden Penvillin Forge. The first Penvillin, Ranulph the Red, hid his treasure inside this room to protect it. His grandchild, Milo, found the room and made a special lock to protect the treasure. His grandson found the room and crafted a puzzle to protect it. His grandson also found the room and crafted a puzzle to protect it. You get the idea. Every other generation, a Penvillin discovers this room and crafts a puzzle to protect Ranulph's treasure. I was the 12th Penvillin to enter this room since the 1300s. I made 2 separate puzzles to protect the treasure, one on my computer in the library, and one involving my beloved pet parrot, Loulou. Unfortunately, there's the small chance that the puzzles I created will become obsolete. If Loulou dies, or if someone decides to replace my newest model 1990 computer. In fact, if there is a non-Penvillin reading this, that is probably what has happened. I do hope my granddaughter Jane will discover this room, but she is only 6 months old right now. Who knows what the future will hold for her? Dear reader, if there are any Penvillins still alive, I beg you to take this book to them so that they may discover the family secrets. If the line has died out, then I assign you with the task of solving the puzzles and retrieving Ranulph's treasure. The truth about our family should not remain lost to history. Yours sincerely, Alan Penvillin. P.S. Please skip to page 10 for a description of all the various puzzles.